Good morning, I'm Austin Brigden. Welcome back to the library garden. Beginning to get a hint of fall in the mornings, and today we're going to talk about tomato pruning. But first I want to show you how well the beans are doing. Come on, don't be shy. These came along quite fast because we planted a late crop, so they benefited from the full days of summer. And as you can see, they're full of beans that we'll harvest today for the staff, and the little crop that's going to come along after we'll let go to seed for the seed library to share with you all. And this is an old French variety called Bière de Roquencourt, if you'll pardon my French. And it's got these beautiful pink blossoms and then these wax beans that turn a pale yellow when they're ready. And these originally come from Algeria by way of Roquencourt, which is in the French countryside. Nothing beats a bean. But now, folks, I'm going to get into some controversial territory. No, not politics. Tomato pruning. As I mentioned last week, the gardening world is full of theories, and this area is no exception. Now, not everybody prunes their tomatoes, but I'm coming around to the idea, particularly for small spaces, large type tomatoes, and tomatoes planted later in the season. Ideally, if pruning is your project, you want to start early and keep up on it. But if you're anything like me, you find yourself late in the season with a tangle of tomatoes, eyeing those green fruits in the calendar and wondering what you can do about it. So it's important to know that there are two types of tomatoes, determinate and indeterminate. Determinate grow to a predetermined size. They grow as big as they're going to get, they stop, and that's it. You don't really have to prune them. But indeterminate tomatoes, which are most of what you and I probably grow, they include most of the heirlooms, are going to grow and blossom and try to fruit until frost kills them. So here are our pruning priorities, especially this late in the season. You want to get those vines up off the ground. Tomato plant's going to want to sprawl, especially if you haven't put it in a cage like this. And you don't want your fruit sitting in the dirt. You don't want those leaves sitting in the dirt and picking up soil-borne diseases. So if you have it in a cage like this, you're going to want to peel down, if you have a cozy coat like this or any other kind of cover, and clean it up at the base if you haven't already. I'm just going to assume you're like me and you haven't already. We're going to clean it up to about a foot, all that foliage. There's no fruit forming down that low. And then up here where there is fruit, you may want to remove some of the leaves. As you can see, it gets real congested in there, not a lot of airflow, and that's just asking for disease. So you can take some foliage out there. One thing to note, you want to leave foliage above and below the fruit, because the foliage above will shade it and the foliage below and above will feed it. So you don't want to take all the foliage out. The last thing we're going to talk about is topping your tomato plants, which means taking off all of this extra branch and flower that isn't going to have time to produce, especially in a larger tomato. You can wait a while for a cherry tomato. And so what we're going to want to do is something called the Missouri method, since it's so late. We don't want to shock the plant. So we're going to take, a branch like this that's not going to produce anything for us, and we're going to trace it back to the base, and we're going to count 2 leaf junctures up from the base and leave some of that foliage there. And then we're going to come in and just cut it off right above that second leaf. Folks, I want to level with you. I don't have much experience pruning tomatoes. I've always been a laissez-faire tomato kind of person. I just get them situated and I let them go, as I imagine many of you are. But I'm coming around to the idea. And isn't that one of the great things about gardening? Every year presents the opportunity to change and adapt, to try new things. All right, folks, let's make the cut for real this time. Did I tell you that what you should really do with your shears is clean them with alcohol before you do this? Let's just make the cut. I think it was Sheryl Crow who said, the first cut is always the hardest. Maybe she's a tomato grower. Thank you for joining us again. I just want to remind you that there's no hard and fast way to do any of this. This is all suggestions for how you might do better. And don't beat yourself up if you didn't do it this year. If you let things get out of hand, there's always next year. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want more information about the seed library, if you'd like to request some fall seeds, mail order, courtesy of the Friends of the Longview Public Library, visit our website, longviewlibrary.org. Once again, I'm Austin Brigden. I've got to grow, but we'll seed you later in the Longview Library garden.